Hi, everybody. My name is Rebecca Missel. I am the Director of Partnerships and Content at Recustom, and I am going to share with you a recording of our webinar celebrating the high holidays with your multi-faith family. This is for folks who weren't able to join us live, and we wanted you to be able to experience the webinar in a way that also protects the folks who had shared a bit more personal information at the live session. So this is really for all of us, just to keep in mind that we believe every custom that family is however you define it, whether by blood, by marriage, or by choice. We believe that multi-faith, interfaith, mixed faith, however you want to define it, is beautiful, and we honor and respect everyone's experiences. And again, my name is Rebecca Missel. I am not joined this morning by Sydney, our Director of Operations, but she was with us for the live session. And also at the live session, we were able to welcome Adam Pollock, Chief Program Officer, 18 Doors. You can find all of 18 Doors content on recustom.com by clicking this QR code. If you hold your camera up to your screen while watching this recording, that will take you to the 18 Doors page on Recustom's High Holiday site. Great, so here's what we are going to cover in this session. We'll have a little opening ritual and do some learning. There'll be a time for a writing exercise. We'll skip to the group conversation and paired sharing, but I will share the prompts with everybody, and we'll share the questions in and the slides in a follow-up message, and we'll have a closing ritual. So as you're watching this, I invite you to think about next Rosh Hashanah, how you want your family to remember this high holiday season, right? So you're gathered around the table again, or you're calling folks on Zoom to wish them a happy year. What is it that you want them to hold with them as a takeaway for this high holiday season? And I think that that can really be, I also recommend you journal or type your answers out to these questions as you go through this recording, and hopefully that will help you to create your ritual. So we like to share with everybody our Recustom's approach to ritual making, and really focusing on why creating your own ritual and what makes a ritual your own. Some of this comes from our colleague Casper ter and his work with the power of ritual. He writes that a ritual requires our intention. It meets, whatever that purpose is for our coming together. It meets our needs for connection, transformation, transmitting our beliefs and traditions. We give it our attention, right? We focus on what matters. And really with this, we're thinking about the gift that we can give to our family of cherished memories that they can then pass on to future generations. And finally, repetition, right? Our rituals are something that we do either daily, weekly, or yearly. So you can think about weekly traditions and rituals like Shabbat, and then yearly traditions like Rosh Hashanah and the other holidays this time of year. There's a few building blocks that we think about when it comes to rituals. Again, purpose. What is that intention is what makes your adaptation meaningful, right? So it's not just the original purpose of the ritual that may have been created, but what are you specifically and personally bringing to it? And that's how you can make that adaptation meaningful. We like to think about help. Maybe it is that your purpose is around comfort or peace, thanks, looking for gratitude or a way to express that gratitude, whether for something bigger than ourselves or for each other. And then wow, right? That celebration and adoration of the universe, of what's around us. There's also some folks that help thanks wow comes from Anne Lamott. My rabbi, Amichai Bar-Levi, adds oops to this, right? At this time of year, especially with Yom Kippur coming, we think about the oops parts that we make, that contrition, that kind of purpose. Rituals also have a sacred time and place. They're a way of separating time out of time. And they have a beginning, a middle, and an end. So even a simple ritual like lighting the Shabbat candles, right? We begin by physically lighting the candles, place the candlesticks in a safe place. We circle those candles with our hands. We cover our eyes and we say the blessing. We move our hands from our eyes and wish everybody Shabbat Shalom, right? That's the beginning, middle, and end. Rituals also are sensory. They sight, sound, taste, smell, touch. We think about dipping apples in honey, right? There's the tactile of the honey, it's sticky on our hands and the apple, but there's also the taste and the smell of everything. Your ritual that you're creating can focus on just one of these, or you can combine multiple rituals or multiple sensory elements. And just a reminder, we're designing something inclusive for people from different backgrounds, different ages and abilities. There's no good or bad. It's just that which gives us meaning and gives us a sense of connection. I encourage you, as you're designing your ritual, to set realistic expectations for yourself and for the other people. If you are designing something that includes a toddler, a 2-hour ritual may not be a realistic expectation. You may need to adapt and find a way of doing this in 10 or 15, 20 minutes. Focus on your priorities. That's why we emphasize purpose and intention so much with our ritual designs, because your purpose comes through and your priorities come through in that intention and purpose. And so if you focus on those, you're going to have a meaningful and special ritual. And then finally, to respect each other's needs. Again, you may have different family members with different physical or emotional, socio-emotional learning abilities and needs. You may have people who need sensory elements. You may have people for whom that's a little uncomfortable. And it's just important to respect everybody's needs. So this is a moment where if you don't already have a pen and paper, I encourage you to pause the recording and grab one or grab something, a place where you can write and reflect. And I just want you to, we're going to go through a writing practice to help you start getting a bit more creative and thinking about the ritual that you want to family. So first, I want you to think about a childhood ritual or custom you loved. What made it feel special? Was it something that happened at home or at your synagogue? Who was there with you? Who led the ritual? What part did you play in it? What was it about that ritual that felt so memorable that you hold it with you still today? Next, I want you to think of a ritual from your adult life that has made you feel connected to your values, your family, your community, to nature, or to something bigger than yourself. And again, if it's something that you do regularly as an adult, it can be secular or religious, all of these. What made it feel meaningful? What set that time apart from other time? And then finally, think about 10, 20, even 30 years from now. How do you want your children, your grandchildren, or your other family members who have nieces, nephews, nibblings, godchildren, chosen family? How do you want them to remember celebrating the high holidays with you? This is a moment that you get to create for the people who are special to you. As a group, we designed our rituals by sharing some of our challenges. And so for this recording, we're just going to invite you as an individual to think a little bit more. And so first, I want you again to go back to your journal and frame your specific challenge. Again, we are normalizing different faiths and ages and abilities. So your challenge may be something that, maybe a non-Jewish son-in-law or brother-in-law feels left out when the rest of the family goes to high holiday services and they're not really sure what to do with that time, right? Maybe that's the challenge. Maybe your challenge is that your family members live in different states and it's difficult to find time to connect, and you're not all going to be physically together for the high holidays. Or maybe you have a family member who's on the autism spectrum or has another different ability and some activities overwhelm her. You yourself may not even understand some of, why we do the things the way that we do them. You may feel a little embarrassed or that your family will judge you for trying something new. And I want you to encourage you to, if you can, be vulnerable about that with your family and say, look, like I personally am not a rabbi. You may not be a rabbi. You may not have, all of the background in the world on this, and that's okay. You already have everything you need to be able to create something beautiful. And I also want to encourage you, if you are feeling shy about this, just to own that again with your family and say, hey, look, this is new for me. This is new for us, but let's try it and see how this could go. And that leads us to our second piece, our second moment for you is to take your challenge and reframe it as a how might we question, right? How might we focus the high holidays on how we treat each other and not make it just specifically about the very traditional Jewish, book of life and death and right and those types of things, right? How do we zoom out and think about ethically how we treat one another, right? How might we make the holiday feel meaningful, even if we only have 10 minutes together on FaceTime or WhatsApp video, right? How might we celebrate Rosh Hashanah using sensory play? And now you can think about some possible solutions to those how might we questions, right? You can frame it as what if, right? What if we had a Sukkot dance party, right? We put on a short playlist and we put on we either went outside or made a pillow fort. We had a Sukkot dance party, either in person or on Zoom. And that was how we celebrated it together. What if we made Rosh Hashanah all about mealtime and connecting with each other at our meals? We're in a minute going to talk about some other toolkits that we like to have and offer to all of you. Or what if we did a sensory play activity for Rosh Hashanah? Maybe it's finger painting or something, right? There's so many ways to explore that. As I mentioned, we want to share with you a few different sort of buckets of toolkits that we think are really wonderful for both the high holiday season and for multi-faith families. So first off are the ideas of mealtime, right? Cooking and eating together. You can cook together in person. You can also, again, be online and make a recipe together, and one person can demonstrate and the others can watch. Giving gratitude before we eat, dipping apples in honey, eating symbolic foods or spices, fragrant foods, and really connecting to what that apple, that sweetness in the honey and that brownness of the apple is really all about. You could elevate that into a ritual. Table topics, things like giving a rose, a thorn, and a bud, right? So what's something that's blooming for you right now? Something that maybe like hurt a little bit, maybe in the last year or the last week, and then a bud, what's growing for you? And that's a really nice way. You can also use mealtime to share intentions for the new year. Blessings are a really beautiful way to bring in ritual to your family this high holidays, right? So in candlelighting, we talked about that. Really taking a moment to look into the flames of the candle. Or saying Shehechianu, right? That's a blessing for milestones. We made it. We made it to another year together. What an incredible experience. And wow, we get to be here with each other. You can take a breath together. If saying a Baruch Atah Adonai, traditional Jewish blessing is comfortable for everybody, can you say a blessing and either give it your own, or share a song or a poem or a story, or just pause, take a breath together, and just say again, just wow, what a special moment for us to be here together. There's a lot of embodied rituals. I think sometimes in Jewish tradition, we think of ourselves as, being from the neck up, and on Zoom, it often feels like the neck up. But Judaism has a lot of incredible embodied rituals. There's dancing in our tradition, washing our hands, right? We wash our hands before we eat, standing and bowing in prayer, right? How can we make that an entire ritual? We go on a walk together. During Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, some people have a tradition of either beating their chest or massaging their chest as they confess places where they've missed the mark in the past year. There's also sensory activities and things like tashlit, right? We're physically casting, whether it's petals or stones or leaves. Recommend not bread because wildlife, bread is less friendly for wildlife. But right, casting something out into a moving body of water. You can adapt any of these for FaceTime or Zoom if you are in a long distance family or relationship. You can pick a dedicated time of day to do the same ritual. and then either do it apart or do it together and talk about it after. I also encourage you, especially if you're doing this activity with or this ritual with older kids or teenagers, ask them for their ideas, whether they're your kids or grandchildren or other family members. Ask them. It really, especially for teens, it makes them feel a part of something and it makes them feel invested. So during our live webinar, we took some time prepared, learning, and sharing. I encourage you to just take a moment for yourself now and really dig into your ritual, right? Sketch it out in your journal. What's the beginning, middle, and end of what you plan to do? When and how often, if only once is okay, will it take place? Who will be there with you? And how do you want people to feel? So take a few moments for yourself to write these things down. I also encourage you, if it's helpful, to ask yourself these questions, or if you're designing this ritual with a family member, invite them into these questions with you, right? And have some time, or call a friend and have them ask you about these questions, right? It's always good to have a ritual buddy. I always, if you're hosting a dinner party, there's usually a helper friend who's going to help you put it all together. This is another place where you can bring that friend in, to maybe talk a little bit more about your family. Who are these people that you're really trying to design for? Have you shared high holiday rituals together before? Is this something that you're making a shift in how you celebrate the high holidays? Is this a new way of celebrating entirely? A new group? Maybe somebody's recently gotten married and you're welcoming them into your family for the first time. Why is it important for you to connect this high holiday season? Really dig into that why. I think that the more you can do that and the more refined of an answer you can give to that question, the better your ritual will feel. How do you want to make sure non-Jewish family members feel included, right? So we talked a few examples of ways that we can make sure that everybody from all different backgrounds feel a part of the ritual. You can also invite them to share a part of their traditions. Maybe they have their own New Year's traditions. Maybe they have their own traditions for an idea of just having a new slate, offering intentions. Will you incorporate technology into your ritual? If so, how? What might go wrong, right? I like sometimes to worry about the worst case scenario so that I can design and cover and make sure that I have all my pieces in place. Are there concerns you have? Sometimes it's good to think about the worst case scenario, sometimes it's not. I think it's important to sort of name those pieces. And again, if you feel safe and like being vulnerable with your family members who you're sharing this ritual with, you can say, hey, maybe I'm worried that this isn't going to work for everybody. But again, let's try it and see. Or let's just, this is going to be a first time and maybe it's one of many and maybe we keep tweaking it. And then lastly, to think about the resources that are available to support. Right? We talked a little bit about the ritual toolkits, but maybe you have a family member who writes poetry, right? Maybe you have another family member who are using technology that's great with tech. Then delegate that to them and let them be able to help. I invite you, we are going to be offering an invitation to a WhatsApp community. It's like a conversation on WhatsApp. After this, I'll share a link to a survey where you can share your phone number if you'd like to join that group. And that will be shared along with the recording of this webinar. And so I invite you there. You can share more about your design challenge and how you want people to feel to remember this new tradition, the toolkits you plan to use, and when you want this ritual to take place. And I really, invite you, this came up in our live session, the idea of thinking about this new year as a fresh start, right? Maybe certain things were challenging for your family in the past. This is a new year, right? This is a new opportunity to create something different. Please don't use this link, but I will share a link to a survey following this webinar that's specifically designed for folks who are watching the recording. And we invite you to complete that survey and share with us your feedback on this session. It really helps us keep designing new workshops. Also invite you to share how your ritual goes. You can, if you don't want to join the WhatsApp group, but you still want to talk to us, you can email us at info@recustom.com. And again, you can scan this QR code and that will take you right to our email. You can create your own rituals for Rosh Hashanah and the high holidays. Again, by scanning this link, that'll take you to our Rosh Hashanah library. There's still a few days left before Rosh Hashanah. And then finally, you can follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Recustom and Recustom Rituals. If you enjoyed today's session, especially this abbreviated version of it, we really invite you to make a donation. We work very hard at Recustom to make sure our resources are free and available to anybody who needs it. But producing these things still comes with a cost. And by making a donation, you help underwrite future programs like this and support our community of meaning and care. And for folks like you to create, remix, and explore traditions and rituals from Jewish life and beyond. Before we close, and I know again, this was an abbreviated version of our webinar, but I would like to offer all of you a blessing of gratitude. This comes from our partners at the Jewish Studio Project, who really believe in this idea of blessing our creativity, right? We just came through, I know I've gone very quickly, but hopefully you can pause and at moments in this recording to do your own writing and reflection. But I offer you this blessing as you embark on this journey of a new year. I'll read it in Hebrew and then in English. Baruch atah Adonai, mekor hachayim, shebara otanu b'tzalmo, uzmazmin otanu l'chadesh b'chol yom tamid, ma'aseh bereshit. Baruch atah Adonai, yotzer yetzirim. Blessed are you, source of life, who created us in your image and invites us to renew daily, perpetually the work of creation. Blessed are you, God, who created us creative. And with that, I thank you and wish you a Shana Tova. Thank you so much and Happy New Year.